Hey, welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In the series of pattern printings, previously we have seen so many patterns using for loops, string concatenation, and also using string multiplication. If you don't know about string concatenation and string multiplication, you could watch my first video about pattern printing 1 where I have explained clearly about string concatenation and string multiplication. In this video, we will be solving this particular pattern using for loop and string concatenation and also using string multiplication. So let's go ahead and see how exactly we can solve this particular pattern. So for that reason, first I will be taking a variable as rows. Initially, I will be taking the value as 5 statically because we have 5 rows here. So for that reason, I have taken statically 5. Later, we will take this input dynamically from the user. So next, what I will be doing is that I will generate a range of values from 1 to 5. So for that reason, for I in range, I want to generate the range of values from 1 to how many number of rows that we are having. For that reason, I am mentioning rows plus 1. So later in the for loop, what I will be doing is that if you carefully see here, in the first row and in the last row, we have stars. In the remaining rows, we have these empty spaces in middle. In the first and last only, we have these particular stars. For that reason, I will mention a condition if I equal to 1. So I'm mentioning like if this particular row which is equal to 1 which is of this, or I equal to this particular last element, this particular last row that I wanted to mention. For that reason, I am mentioning rows. By mentioning rows, we will be mentioning how many number of rows that we are having. That particular row should be, that is what we are generating here, condition in the condition mentioning here. Later in the for loop, in the print, what I will be doing is that I will simply print this particular star here. So how many number of times that we want this particular star is how many number of rows that we are having. So if I print this, I can able to get this particular result. But we wanted to generate this particular middle pattern as well. So for that reason, I will take the condition another. If this condition fails, later we will be entering to else block, right? So in the else block, we are actually printing this particular hollows box here. So for that reason, what I will be taking is that first I will take the star because first we are getting started with star, right? For that reason, I am taking star. I am concatenating the star with spaces. So for that reason, I am mentioning a space. So if you carefully observe here, we need to generate we need to generate a logic to generate these particular spaces. So if you carefully observe how many number of columns that we are having is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 columns we are having. Out of 9 columns, we have first and the second column are occupied with spaces. So we need to generate a logic to fit these spaces in middle of this. So for that reason, what I will be doing is that I will be generating 2 into how many number of rows we have. By mentioning 2 into how many number of rows, we will be getting 10, right? So here we are not having 10, we are having 9. So for that reason, I am mentioning minus 1. So by mentioning minus 1, 10 minus 1, which is of 9, I am getting this particular 4 columns. So I wanted to exclude this particular stars. So for that reason, we have 2 stars on each row, right? So for that reason, I will exclude that by mentioning minus 2. By mentioning minus 2, we are excluding this particular stars from this particular pattern. So I hope you can able to understand this. 2 into rows, how many number of rows we are having, which is 10. I don't have 10 here, I have 9 only. Because of that reason, I am mentioning minus 1. So to exclude this particular stars, I am mentioning with 2. So now we replace this minus 2 minus 1 with minus 3, which is 2, right? Minus 2 minus 1, which is minus 3. So I wanted to multiply this many number of times with this particular spaces. Later after this, I wanted to concatenate this particular spaces with how many number of stars that we are having. We have one star at the end, right? So for that reason, I am mentioning one star only. So if I execute this, so I can able to see the result a hollow square here. So now we have taken the input statically. Now we will try to take input dynamically from the user. So based on the user input, we will generate any pattern like this. Enter any number. I'm asking user to enter any number with this input method. I want integer number. For that reason, I'm mentioning int here. So if I execute this, it was asking me to enter any number. I will give 5. I can able to get this particular pattern. If I give one more number 9, I can able to get this particular hollow square with the 9 input. So if I give 3 here, I can able to get this particular pattern. So I hope you can able to understand this logic. If not, let me explain one more time for you. So now initially we are taking rows as input to get this many number of rows that we wanted. So later I will be generating a range of values from 1 to that particular number of rows. So in the for loop, we will be mentioning a condition that is to satisfy this particular first row and the last row, because in the first row and last row we have these particular stars as it is. So in middle of this in middle of these rows we are having these spaces in middle of these stars. This is considered as hollow because we are having spaces only, not the stars here. For that reason I have mentioned this particular condition, if condition. If first row and last row print whole stars as it is, so if not, if we don't have, if we don't encounter first row or last row, at that case, we need to print a star initially. Later, we need to print the spaces with this logic, which is 2 into how many number of rows that we are having with minus 3. Minus 3 is mentioned because here we are excluding one value, because here we are not including, if we multiply 2 with how many number of rows, we are not getting exact number, we are getting minus 1 as subtracted. After that, we wanted to exclude this particular stars. For that reason, I have mentioned all together as minus 3. Later, at the end, we are printing this particular star. By doing this, we can actually generate this kind of a pattern. So now I hope you can able to understand how we are getting this particular pattern. So in the next video, we will be discussing how we can generate this particular pattern using for loop, string concatenation, and also using string multiplication. If you can write the logic for this pattern, you can write that logic and comment your solution in the comment section. Anyway, we will discuss this particular logic in the next video. If you understood this particular problem explained in this video, and if you able to understand this, hit the like button, and thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.